Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver George Pickens just gave a warning to NFL defenses around the NFL. So, George Pickens, he had a really good rookie season, and then he had a really good sophomore season. But now, heading into year 3, he just gave a warning to NFL defenses that he's about to step up his game. So, Pickens told Jason Mackey of Pittsburgh Steelers Post-Gazette that we still haven't witnessed 100% of his ability yet. This is his quote. I'd probably say 80%. I can only go off of how the quarterback plays. I can thrive more. The yardage showed it. I should have made the Pro Bowl. End quote. So, before I get more into it, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news and updates. Also, like the video. Now, let's get right back into it. So, this is kind of a shot at the Steelers quarterbacks that we've had in the past and how they actually performed and the new guys the Steelers have brought in as well. So you look at the Steelers' last quarterbacks, obviously Mitchell Trubisky, Kenny Pickett, and you look at Mason Rudolph as well. Obviously, it's a shot at those 3 guys because George Pickens is basically saying, I could only play to how they're giving me the ball. Basically, every single time we've seen George Pickens on the sideline, either getting mad or going to coaches and yelling, it's mainly because he's not getting the football and he believes that quarterback is just not doing his job right. We've seen it many times. It's been talked about a lot. And it's true because George Pickens could be the best receiver in the NFL. But if he doesn't have a quarterback who could get him the ball, or he has a quarterback who's looking in the opposite direction and is giving him 0 targets, 0 throws in his direction for a whole 3/4 of a football game, there's not much he could do. He's a really great contested catch wide receiver. So even if he's not open, you know he could win those jump balls. But you're just giving him 0 targets. That happened many times last season in his rookie season, where he would have 0 targets, not even 0 catches, 0 targets, and a whole 3/4 of the game, and then get 2 in the 4th quarter. And then we wonder why his stats were low. He had what last season? 1,140 yards, which is 18.1 yards per reception on 63 receptions and 5 touchdowns. That is coming off of games where he would have such low targets in a game, and then he would go off in the next game. So it's really unbalanced. But imagine how much yardage, how much touchdowns, how much receptions he would have put up if he actually got consistently thrown the ball, or he is a quarterback who actually play at a high level. He just didn't have that with Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, Mitchell Trubisky. He just didn't have that. He had quarterbacks who would scramble for no reason, leave a clean pocket just to get sacked out the back door, or just scramble and take their eyes down the field, or just only target Deontay Johnson and not target George Pickens. He had that happen so many times, and that's where the frustration sets in. So now having a quarterback in Russell Wilson, who's played with some top receivers, even if you're going to say that he's past his prime, he may be a little bit washed, sure, he still played with top wide receivers and has gotten them the ball. His top options, just say Tyler Lockett, for example, he's always been able to get the top option, the football, at a high level and do it consistently. So George Pickens is basically saying in his quote, hey, I could be the best receiver in the NFL, but if the quarterback I'm playing with can't get me the football, can't do his job right, how am I supposed to do mine? And also, George Pickens said that we basically only seen 80% of him. But me personally, I believe it's way less than that. We were not able to see George Pickens basically at all under the Matt Canada offense. That's something we have to realize as well. It's the Matt Canada offense that we saw George Pickens thrive in for the last 2 seasons, the first 2 seasons of his career. That's what we had to witness. George Pickens running limited routes. What did he run? Well, he ran streak routes. At one point, he was the most ran player on streak routes in the entire NFL. So he's basically just running streaks and he's running digs. And that's basically it. His route tree was not there. And yes, many people could say George Pickens isn't the best route runner. Well, how are you going to say that if he just hasn't been given the opportunity to run routes at the NFL and run proper routes other than limited ones that he was given? So having Arthur Smith, hopefully is able to boost that and his route tree is able to take a next step to the next level. He's been working on his route running and things of that nature. He's even worked with some trainers who specify in route running. So hopefully he's trying to get better in that area and it actually pans out. But George Pickens, he said we only seen 80% of him. And that's probably even too high. I believe it's less. George Pickens, he still needs to run more routes. He still needs to see a quarterback get him the football. And it's only year 3 that he's going on. And he's already put up 1,140 yards. So if that's only 80%, I believe he could easily, with a good quarterback who's consistently throwing the ball, get near 1,600 plus yards and over 10 touchdowns. So George Pickens, he warns the NFL that there's still more to come, and we all believe so as well. The thing is, though, that 80% is just wide receiver and just catching the ball, running routes and things like that. But in this Arthur Smith offense, we're going to see so much more of George Pickens in the run game as well than we probably haven't seen before. Yes, we see those nasty blocks of George Pickens pushing the defenders to the ground, the cornerbacks, and things like that. But in Arthur Smith's offense, he asks the wide receivers to block a huge amount. So not only are we going to see an increase of George Pickens actually as a wide receiver because of the new quarterback, the new offense system, but also that 80% that he said is probably even lower because now we're about to see even more of him in the run blocking game, being the lead blocker and kind of using the wide receivers and using his size, his strength to the advantage to help block for Najee Harris, to help block for Jaylen Warren. There were some times where he would get called out either by the media or whatever for not blocking, but now he's going to be asked to do that at a high level and consistently, with Arthur Smith being a run-heavy type of offense and also using the wide receivers and tight ends to their abilities in that area. A big thing in Arthur Smith's offense is asking the wide receivers to block. And apparently, many people have said in the past that if you don't block in the Arthur Smith offense as a receiver, you just won't see the playing field. So that will even increase more for George Pickens because it will make him have to block. And also, one last thing before I end this video. You look at all the top receivers in the NFL, all the ones who gets talked about. For example, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs, A.J. Brown. You look at all those top receivers, what do they have? Well, they have a quarterback who's consistent, who targets them, and just is really good at decision making, and they're in a top offense in the NFL. You even look at a guy like Brandon Ayuk, for example. He's even in an offense who features him as well. So all these top receivers that you could list and name, they have a good quarterback, they have a really good offense. So they have a really good support system surrounding them. And then you look at George Pickens, for example, and he has none of that. He didn't have a good offense. He didn't have a good quarterback. So how much more are we going to expect from George Pickens moving forward? It's way more. Once he gets that good quarterback, once he gets that good offensive system, he's about to take his game to the next level. The people like DK Metcalf, for example, he was a top receiver at one point in the NFL. But over the years, he's kind of shined down in terms of the talk around him. But that's because the offensive system around him went down. And then the quarterback play around him went down. And now he's not talked about as much. But he was talked about a lot more when he had those things. So you see how the narrative surrounding some players is higher because of certain aspects surrounding them. Hopefully George Pickens gets brought to the spotlight now because of the Steelers system that they put around him. We still don't know yet. This offense could be purely run based. Even though it's expected to be run heavy, it could be not targeting George Pickens as much and even more run heavy. We don't know. Or the quarterback play could be just awful. We don't know. But until he gets that around him, a top quarterback and top system that we know for sure, then we could really talk about George Pickens. But until then, how are you going to judge George Pickens based off Kenny Pickett, Mitchell Trubisky, and Matt Canada? That's probably the worst 3 things you could surround a wide receiver with. The worst offense coordinator and a quarterback who got benched for a 3rd stringer in Mason Rudolph. So George Pickens, he gives a warning to NFL defenses that we've still not seen the best of him, and he still has a lot more to show, and he can only play based off how the quarterbacks play, and he's a lot more to give. we've only seen 80% of him so far in his words. So once we reach 100, it's going to be over for the NFL. But with that being said, let's end this video. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below about George Pickens' comments, about we still have so much more to see, and your thoughts on the Steelers. Are they going to be more run heavy? Are they actually going to feature George Pickens? Do you think George Pickens has a good system around him now, or do you believe it's still about the same? And also, do you believe he could go off as well for more yardage, more things like that? He said that he should have made the Pro Bowl, and hopefully this season, his numbers match it even more. But with that being said, let me know your thoughts. But that's the end of this video. And make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news, updates, highlights, reactions, analysis, breakdowns, updates, everything like that. I covered all Steelers through the offseason, and I'll continue covering it as well through the regular season. But hopefully there's more breaking news coming, more OTA highlights, more training camp coming up, preseason, regular season. So subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications as well, like the video, comment. But until the next time, I'll see you guys all later. I'm out. Peace.